Let's start with Geeta, Diana. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us. O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy, Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers. The milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. So do we catch, or do we contemplate or meditate upon sometimes that last line, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains? Very specific, right? So this means that through the Lord's grace, anything is possible, including waking up, including self-realization, including God-realization. Okay. So we're in yoga of meditation, and we're transitioning, but we're not really transitioning. That is, we've come from, and I know over the last 2 days we've been going over these shlokas again, and this movement into yoga of meditation is a big one. In a way, it's a shift, but you know that we're being grounded in this teaching in karma yoga. We're being grounded in tyaga, in renunciation of the fruit, right? So that's been a big deal, and that is preparation for meditation. So the two can't be separated. And then even when he begins to come into the teaching of meditation, he's teaching us to withdraw from the forms, not something. It is outside, but it's not outside in the way that we think it is. The forms, the names and the forms are the peel, the banana peel, and the essence is the fruit. And so he's guiding us again to remove the peel from this and from this, both, not just in the classical sense of meditation where we had the idea that I withdraw myself from everything outside. That was perfect. We couldn't do that again if we tried. Thank you, Lord. Okay, we get special effects too. Oh, you can't make this stuff up. So that's essential as we come in, and now the teaching of meditation is really the teaching of meditation, the practice of meditation as well. But still, everything to this point has been preparation for this point. And lest we forget, we would not want to, all of that preparation which is required. And the preparation is what's leading us to this point, which was this number 8 and number 9. A true and steady yogi is utterly content with the wisdom of real knowing, is not disturbed by anything, has controlled and calmed his or her senses, and looks with equal vision on a dirt clod, a stone, or a nugget of gold. The person stands supreme who has equal regard for friends, companions, enemies, neutral arbiters, hateful people, relatives, saints, and sinners. And last discussion that we had, and the last discussion actually cut on the online feed, so we missed almost all of it, but the last discussion was in a nutshell, that seeing all equally is not the same as treating all equally. And we had taken this commentary from Swami Venkatesananda, who pointed out Gurudev's teaching on this point, that the guidance is not to treat all the same. That's not what's being shared. And he pointed out very specific wording from Lord Krishna to help us to be clear on that. That's an idea that will come when we're still trying to understand, or we think we know what the spiritual path is. That seeing all the same means treating all the same. But it's very specific. That's not the case. That's not what's being prescribed. And what I'd like to do, since we missed the feed, and maybe it's helpful anyway, is just to take this commentary from Swamiji on that eighth and ninth, really. Shloka again. So he says in chapter 5, verse 18, the Lord had said that the wise men have equal vision. This is a very important concept or teaching in the Bhagavad Gita and needs clear-cut understanding. Our master used to point out Samadarshi, a person of equal vision, is different from Samavarti, one who behaves alike or the same to all. We are asked to see the same self in all, but that should not lead us to the absurd position of trying to feed the goat with meat and the tiger with grass. To remove the possibility of such misconception, the Lord uses another expression here, samabuddhi. This, remembering buddhi, is the intellect, conscious mind. This same mindedness, so an undisturbed mind, right? Same mindedness. This same mindedness is an entirely inner state, which is very difficult to bring down to the level of exhibitionism. And you recall that conversation that we were having, right? How do you show it? We have the idea that we could show it by treating everyone the same. But that's not what's being called out here. What's being called out is an inner seeing of the same essence in all. So how do you exhibit it? We asked that question the other day. And you come to the point that then objectively you're going to try to determine whether I'm loving or not.
Love inside everyone.
But how do you show it?
Well,
how do you exhibit it?
Well, for a baby, it might be different than us.
Yeah, so you're going to have to get to the answer you can't.
Yeah. You'd have to be intuitively doing it, I guess.
Yeah, it's inner. It's inner. So inner, you can do it. You can practice it inner. You can practice seeing the same essence in all. You can practice loving and serving all, can't you? Mm-hmm. But then when it comes to judging that from the outside, how will you get there? How will you see it? So if you ask yourself the question, how can I exhibit this? Then the answer is going to have to come to, well, we'll let the Lord take care of that part. Because how can I demonstrate for you what it's like to see everyone with the same essence inside when I have to treat each of you differently according to your own nature?
Right.
Huh? Mm-hmm. I do. I have to treat this as a coffee cup, even though it's Brahman. And I have to treat this as tea inside, even though it's Brahman. So the essence of this is exactly the same as the essence here. If I remove the peel, it's the same. A cloud of dirt is the same. So nothing here could disturb, if you see that. Right? What could disturb?
Your intellect would...
Samabuddhi. So same-mindedness. Same-mindedness. So undisturbed mind. It's just worth taking a minute with it. So, right? So that's an inner state of non-disturbance. But on the outside, do I say, good morning, tea? How are you today?
You could, I guess.
Or I can just tell everyone, good morning, Brahman, how are you? I mean, on the inside I say that, but on the outside, how's that going to be? Hey, Brahman, you do whatever the heck you want. This is the ashram. You act like you own the place. You just do whatever you want to do. You're Brahman. Why not?
Why not?
Yet it's absolutely true at the same time.
Yeah. So there are all of these levels
Right.
of consciousness. And so if we've gotten out of our own way, then nature will appropriately treat nature.
Right.
But it will look to one who's still caught up as if nature's being unfair. Won't it? Does it? You tell me, does it look that way? Looks as if the world is unfair, yes? So, but that's nature treating nature.
Yeah, like people that are rough often get rough treatment and then question, why am I being treated
It's unfair,
rough?
yeah.
Yeah, it's unfair, but that's a responsiveness from the environment.
That's a responsiveness from nature. Nature responding to nature.
I even notice that with myself. If I'm being rough with objects, all of a sudden I start running into things and hitting
And you
my
experience
head,
that roughness coming right back from
It
you.
comes right back.
Yeah. So this same-mindedness is an entirely inner state, which is very difficult to bring down to the level of exhibitionism. In the commentary, you see, he gets there. He says, you can see it in one way. The yogi is aware of his unruffled state of mind when he meets any of the people listed in the verse above. So this teaching is just purely an inner check-in. It's an inner check-in to look and see, how am I seeing? Not the physical eyes, right? All you're seeing is the mind anyway, for gosh sakes. Imagine yourself to be seeing some external object, but you're just seeing the mind's eye view of the object, right? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's in the mind's eye view that the image of the object exists. Both the external image of the object and the internal essence or the idea of the object. What is it really? That is all existing within the mind, and we see that, and we imagine that because we see this image in the mind, we're seeing something outside of us. So if you see an enemy, then you know, not samabuddhi.
Booty.
Then you know. So Peace Pilgrim, here's just a great example, if we can touch this. Peace Pilgrim. So Peace Pilgrim describes this story. She talks about when she was walking, she had been asked to watch a child. She was staying with someone for a day or two, and she'd been asked to watch their child while they went out. She said, sure, and she was doing some work. And she looked, and she saw the child, 7 years old, like that, going into a barn. And then after some time, she saw a man starting to walk into the barn. And so she got up and went into the barn because it felt like the man might have bad intentions. So she went into the barn, and she saw that the child was cowering a bit in the back, and the man was slowly walking towards her. And she walked into the scene and just stood in between the two of them, and she looked at the man. And she was immovable, completely immovable. She knew exactly what to do. This is nature. She knew exactly what to do. She stood there staring at the man with complete and absolute love in her eyes, but unflinching. Unflinching. She was not going to move. She was not going to allow him any closer to that girl. Under threat of what? she didn't need a threat, it turns out. But she wouldn't have moved, we can just say that. And so after some time, faced with that, the man had a shift and he left. So, and then she says afterwards, what else is there to do? If I tried to fight him, he was much bigger and stronger than me, right? And if I didn't do anything, then he was going to hurt the girl. Yes? Mm-hmm. But did she feel a way towards him? Did she feel that he was a terrible person? Did she feel that he was? No. So she sees that same essence, but also was able to respond to the situation appropriately. If that helps to put some light on.
He probably would have beat her if she was thinking that, probably.
If those thoughts would have been there, anger, envy, all of that, then the scene, where it would have gone. Yeah. But in the absence of the thoughts, but the presence of her in that situation, then it all unwound. So the yogi knows the difference between a newspaper and a currency note, but the sight of the currency note does not produce in him the excitement that it does in a worldly man. The only sign by which we shall know how he feels is the total absence of greed he exhibits and his unwillingness to hoard wealth. So that's where Swamiji finally gets that question that we asked about, how could you exhibit it? It will be exhibited naturally if you don't have an interest in accumulating. Right? So if you see that, you know something from observing that on the outside, you know something about the state of mind. But it's hard to imagine some other way. Right? Because you might say, well, the person who's sane-minded or who's undisturbed, they wouldn't care about anything in the world, but that would be a mistake. Because they would care greatly. It would look like they were passionate to us, right? It would look like it. So that wouldn't be a sign. In fact, if someone doesn't seem to care at all about what happens, then that's either nirvikalpa samadhi. Could be. Could be. It could be. If you watch for a while, you might see. Or it's just a show. Someone trying to appear to be a certain way.
Or tamas.
Tamas, yeah. Which is tamas. Which is tamas. Oh. So, lack of interest in activity, lack of interest in working for beneficial result, that wouldn't be there. Because there is an interest in working for beneficial result. There's just not attachment to the result. Okay. The yogi has trained his buddhi or intelligence to be aware of the indwelling presence in all. But as long as he lives in the physical body in this material world, he has a double consciousness. He sees the gold and the clod of earth, but is aware that both of them are part of God's nature. His intelligence is aware of God's omnipresence, though the mind and senses still receive the varied impressions in the world. So not nirvikalpa samadhi. Right? His actions and reactions are strictly in accordance with God's will, unconditioned by personal likes and dislikes, love or hatred. He's naturally not attached to anything, neither rejecting it nor clinging to it, but enjoys it while it is there, knowing that everything is pervaded by God and his will be done. His individual me always knows itself as part of the great he. So that story with Peace Pilgrim, for example, if we were in the inner, did she think about what to do with the child? Did she think about all of her different options and then choose?
Right.
No. She would say she knew what to do. Right? and did it. So for us, would we think about it? Yes, we would. And here examples are being given to us in order to help us to get to what to do. Okay, so let's continue from there. And now we're really stepping into the teaching on the practice of meditation. Starting here. So yoga practitioners, number 10. Yoga practitioners should continue to concentrate their minds until they master their minds and bodies, and thus experience a state of solitude wherever they may be. Then desires and possessiveness drop away. The solitude that's being discussed here is not, again, it's not about being away from the world, but it is about being away from the worldly ways and from the being undisturbed by the coverings, by the names and forms. Solitude. The yogi will experience solitude in the midst of a crowd. By negating the names and forms and getting to the essence of the matter in the inner world, then the yogi is still experiencing the one divine presence in the midst of crashing worlds, big crowds, New York subways. So, and the practice is being given for this, which is concentrating the minds until they master the minds and bodies. This sloka suggests that a yogi should always be in solitude, and it's easily misinterpreted. In the mind, this is Swamiji, in the mind is God. In the hand is the job. God and job should go together. Want to hear that one more time? In the mind is God. In other words, for the yogi, the mind is filled with God. Huh? And in the mind is God. It's also true. In the hand is the job. Whatever it is that we're doing. He says,
a good tattoo or a wall.
Right? It's a beautiful practice he's providing.
Yeah.
Dharmajan knows this one. Right? Always in the hand is the job. But if in the mind is mother, then the two are connected, correct? Yeah. Oh. So you really embody this one, Dharmajan. When you're on, this is it. God and job should go together. But if you insist, I want to be a yogi, I must always be in solitude, then you won't even come to the kitchen for something to eat. You won't leave your solitude. So if you want to practice solitude, it's fine. Don't move.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was there's a Swami Sarvapriyananda talk about this topic, and he said basically the same thing that you were told by Swami Premananda about the skipping rock sadhus. He said there was many sadhus that would go, and he even did for 2 months, and they go get their bhiksha from the monastery and then come back. But probably like 50 or more % of them would be like going crazy in their head. And they like were just doing random weird things, not doing sadhana. And then the other 50% were scholarly writing. They were doing service. They were doing correspondence,
occupying the mind,
meditating 8 hours a day. Yeah, they were able to use it.
If you're interested, so he continues, Swamiji, if you're interested in coming to the dining room, then you should also be interested in going to the workshop. The idea here is to perform one's duty with the hand. Yet in the midst of performing the duty, keep the mind in solitude, head in solitude, hands in multitude. The shloka says, always try to concentrate your mind, feeling yourself in solitude. That means you don't associate yourself with everything. It doesn't mean you don't move along with everything, because the rest of the shloka says you achieve solitude only after subduing the mind and body. Doing so, you rise above the desires and possessions that you accumulated, fulfilling previous desires. You may still be in the midst of many people and many things, but in fact you are in solitude. You are not affected by it, like a boat on the water or like a lotus in the mud. It's the mud, but it's unaffected. When you go to the lake, you see lotus leaves floating in the water. But the moment you take the leaf out of the water, you won't even find a trace of moisture there. So he says, swim like a duck in the water, but the minute you come out, shake everything off. All the water drops away, you come out free. And that's real dhyana, or real meditation. And then he introduces number 11. Now, Sri Krishna gives some meditation information. It's general, useful information that will be very helpful. First, what sort of setting should one have? And this is the kusha grass. To practice meditation, fix up a clean meditation place with your seat neither too high nor too low. Insulate the seat with a grass mat, then a deer skin, and over those a clean cloth. And Swamiji feels the need to add, but don't kill a deer just for the sake of meditation. The idea here is simply to have some good insulation between the body and the ground. During meditation, you're trying to develop a new form of energy, which shouldn't be drawn down by the pull of the earth. It's like an electrician who stands on a piece of wood before touching an electric line. These recommendations are given to help you insulate yourself when you sit for regular meditation. Bring a clean towel if you'd like. It's easy to do. If you want, you can even use a yoga mat. Lay it first over the carpet, then put a clean towel on top. And he says the towel should be used only for your meditation. After you finish the meditation, don't even stand on it. Immediately roll it up and keep it in a clean place. This is some of the guidance we'll receive at TTC, for example, about meditation, which is now that we're getting to the practice of meditation itself, for the seated practice of meditation, is the guidance to really focus on having a meditative energy associated with that space. So not to meditate where one sleeps, for example. And it can't be a hard and fast rule, can it? But it's guidance. He says the purpose is to let the meditation seat become charged with meditative vibrations. Have you noticed the minute you go to bed, you feel sleepy? In the same way, the minute you sit on the meditation seat, you'll feel like meditating. So, and we understand and relate to this here. For those of us joining online, it's a very key point in terms of the preparation of the space. Having taken this walk through the Om Namah Shivaya, having taken this walk through the teaching of yoga, which really starts with tyaga, or renunciation of the fruit, and at the same time accompanied by beneficial action. Now we're coming to the place where Krishna is teaching us to withdraw, and he's being clear that he's teaching us to withdraw from the forms and the names, not from the essence. So just like Swami Shivananda says, last two words that he had spoken in a letter, detach, attach. So detaching from the form, detaching from the fruit, and attaching to the essence, attaching to the Lord. Right? That visual of holding on to the Lord's feet, no matter where we are. And here, in this way, then, this practice of meditation is a beneficial practice. It can't be a standalone practice. And I've met many people who, because of the buzz about meditation, because of the idea that meditation will cure everything, and because the idea is that when we sit down and close our eyes, that's meditation. These are all misunderstandings. That's not meditation when we sit down and close our eyes. That's sitting down and closing our eyes. It's a practice supporting meditation, but so is karma yoga a practice of supporting meditation. So is bhakti, chanting the names, a practice of meditation. So is this discussion of who am I, that I'm not this body. So too, this is a practice of meditation, isn't it? So all of this is a practice of meditation, not just sitting. And what often happens in this time is when people will just sit for meditation and they carry all of their worldly stuff into it with them, then they have experiences. They're not spiritual experiences. I've met many that will have ghosts visit them, and they think that it's happening during meditation. They'll have great pains, great tremors that will come, great anxiety that will come, where they'll actually experience more fear related to. So there's this order that's being given to us is required, right? This is right being shared. Even in Buddhist practices, there's an idea of Zen meditation, for example, about just sitting for hours and hours per day. That's what's shown in the movies. But again, there has to be the preparation for it. And there has to be mindfulness as well.
Yeah, the preliminaries.
There's
a lot of preliminaries.
There are a lot of preliminaries. Actually, in the Buddhist tradition, both the books, the preliminaries.
Wow, that big. Words of my perfect teachers.
Yeah. So, but now that we're here, now we're dealing with what kind of space to have when we have that opportunity to sit and practice seated meditation. Should be next to an altar, right? There should be an altar. The altar should be pointed the proper direction. The altar should be used just for sacred practice. It shouldn't be used for worldly engagement. It shouldn't be in one's bedroom like this. So there should be an altar. There should be a place to meditate. What are the murtis on the altar? That's a personal question, but Ishta Devata, how we relate. And then all of the support for sitting, the platform, the cushion, all that's being discussed here wants to be specifically dedicated for the practice of meditation. It doesn't want to be multi-purpose to the extent it's possible. So, okay, we'll pick up there. Of course, we know here, and for those of us joining online, our dear Gopala and Hari will continue with the morning satsangs for the next week. Tomorrow morning I depart for New Orleans, or how do you say, New Orleans? New Orleans. And then Mobile, Alabama. We'll have a retreat there. And then I'll be back on Thursday morning of next week to resume leading the morning satsangs. But through grace, we're able to continue, which is wonderful. And you'll be here. Yay, Janman. Dear Bonita will be here. Mataji will be here. Shiv Das will be here. And more. Okay. We can close with final prayers and then arati, but any other comment or question on the discussion this morning?
Yeah, I think it's definitely I know it seems like a small detail, but I notice when I meditate in the Shiva cabin,
yes,
and that little altar, almost every single time there's a lack of lucidity and there's a tendency to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because everybody goes to sleep in the cabins. So
Yeah.
I know that seems like a small thing, but
well, and to the point, for those, I didn't do this morning.
Whoopsie. Sorry, I messed up.
It's a joint effort. No, I didn't. True. We should make a point for whoever's in there to be at that altar and chant mantra and sit for a little while to help make sure that the energy at the altar itself is proper. I would certainly hope that no one lies down at the altar. And in an entryway, you should be aware that you're at an altar as you're coming in, and prostrate to the altar on the way in, etc., etc. And that'll help. If we're not having daily arati at the altar, we need to have daily arati at the altar, at that altar. And that will help with that energy. We don't want it to get more like bedroom there. And even though there's not a door, there is a separation. And so it shouldn't have to be like that. But it sounds like those of us that are in Shiva, we need to concentrate on bringing an uplifting energy to the altar specifically. Right? Having heard what he shared, we really should concentrate on bringing it in.
I have different experience when I meditate there.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oh. Okay. All right, let's close with final prayers and arati. Page 174. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairukmeva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamamritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairukmeva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamamritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvairukmeva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamamritat Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyanto Makashit Dupapat Bhave Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Mritam Gamaya Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purnamudashate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller for all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in thee forever and ever. Humble Lord Sakura Shivananda Maharaji Ki. And for all the saints and sages of all traditions. Let's pray.